Welcome to the R video tutorial on splines part 11. This time we're going to do cubic splines. We learned how to do quadratic splines in the last video, so you're going to want to make sure you've watched that because I'm just going to copy and paste the code from there because the changes we need to make are so minor that with the infrastructure we built up to this point and all these other 10 videos, you will see how we've created a flexible infrastructure that we can easily modify and turn it into something else. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up here. This is from the last video. And I'm going to copy x02. Scroll down. You have to pay attention to what I changed last time. I'm going to change this to x03. And then the only other thing I have to change is now it's cubic. That's it. Two changes. Change the name. And that's it. Okay, so now I'm going to scroll back up. I'm going to get the next function that we had, which is this x0 function 2. Copy it. Scroll back down. Sorry, it's making you seasick. But this is the easiest way to do it. Change this to 3. And then the only other thing we have to do is change this to 3. And we have to add another row here, or another column to our data set. And this one's going to be cubed because it's a cubic spline. Everything's got to be in the same order. All right, so now I scroll back up, get my next function, which is the spline function 2, and I'm going to turn it into spline function 3. So it should be pretty easy here. Change this to 3, change this to 3, and change this to 3. Everything else should work. So let's give this a go real quick, test it out before we try to draw it on the picture that we have over here that we've left over from our previous videos. And all right, we have all the coefficients it looks like here. Looks like everything should work at this point. So we just scroll back up. We're going to get, and we're going to put in the same knots, and we're going to put this on our picture. And sure enough, we could change the knots if we want to, but I'm not actually going to. So I'm going to call this spline 3, just so I keep it straight. 3, 3, 3, and what color do we want here? Let's go with, how about black? And I'm going to change the line type to 3. I don't remember which one that is. But we'll see what this one does. So we know this bit works. Now this does exactly the same as before. These are our knots. We've called our spline 3 function. We've stored it off. Now we're using it to predict. We got to get some predictive data, which is going to use that x0 function 3, which sets us up. Then away we go. So let's give this a go and see if this shows up on our picture. And sure enough, it does. So let's zoom in. Now notice this one seems to do better than the last one. Notice it captures what's going on up here. Both of these missed. Notice that one missed, this one missed. And it has less warbly stuff at the end, but it still has some. And these are edge effects, and they're quite common with all types of splines and other sort of basis-based functions like Fourier series. But this one looks pretty good, and if we were to play around with the not sum, we could get this to be even better. All right, so this has been pretty easy. All we had to do was just copy and paste what we had and change it. And that's the beauty of doing this programming in this way, is that we've kind of given ourselves building blocks that we can just modify, and it makes it easy. Instead of having to code everything up from scratch every single time, we can just use what we did from our first order splines, turn them into quadratic splines, and now we've got them into cubic splines. And cubic splines, and this is a cubic B spline. I didn't bother saying that because I worry that if I get too technical, people will be like, what's the difference between a B spline and the P spline? Well, there's lots of types of splines, but this is one that shows you how it works, and it's pretty easy to use. So we're going to change topics in our next video. We're going to go and see how to make models compete against each other, and we're also going to play with some infectious disease models just because this is the COVID-19 time and it seems to be a reasonable thing to do. All right, see you in the next video.